Hello there. As you can see, I'm back in my home because, unfortunately, for personal reasons, I had to quit the tournament. So this will be the last game of the tournament I will show you. And it's a nice game, but again, the same thing happened. I was much better, and then at some point I just blundered my focus and concentration, drop just for one move, and he managed to equalize the position, and then I ended up fighting for a draw. So it is what it is, and let me show you the game. So my opponent opened with d4, I responded with d5, knight f3, knight f6, so just normal developing moves. e3, a little bit passive because now this bishop is locked in, but okay, it's a legitimate opening. I usually expect something like bishop g5, but okay. e6, normal move, c4, correct. Bishop e7, preparing to castle, knight c3, nothing surprising here. Castles, bishop d3. Now, when he moves the bishop, now it's time to capture, because then he has to move the bishop again. So I captured. This is just all trick. Bishop takes c4. And now I like this move a6, which is not so often seen. I don't know why. It's a great move, because now I'm threatening b5 with tempo, and then I'm developing my bishop on this great diagonal. So the correct response here is usually they play a4, and now I cannot play b5, but then I play c4 in that case, just expanding in the center. But this is not what happened. He immediately castled, which I think is a small mistake, because now he's allowing me to play b5. So this is very nice pattern to know. He retreated the bishop back to e2, and I developed my bishop to b7. Now I have this nice strong bishop here. The pawns are cleared. This pawn is cleared, so this is very nice bishop. My opponent here played knight to e5. Okay, putting the knight here, and it is a little bit annoying, as you will see, but nothing too special. So I continue my expansion. I'm just playing c5 now. There's no reason why not to play c5, and then later maybe my knight can jump to c6. This was the idea. He took the pawn. Now, before taking the pawn back, I exchanged queens. When you are black, you usually want to exchange queens, so I'm fine with this, and I think my position is fine. This is a slow position, I don't need queen, there is no possibility of any attack, so it's okay. Now I took the pawn back. a3, now he wants to, he's learning quickly, so he wants to apply my idea to develop his bishop. And here I was thinking about several things. So the annoying thing was this d7. So maybe the correct move was to develop the knight to c6, and I think this is what engine prefers. But now I was afraid of this scenario. So knight to d7, attacking my rook. I have to take the knight, and he penetrates my position and attacking the bishop. So I have to defend the bishop, putting the rook on a passive spot. And now he wants to develop his bishop, so he plays b4. And here I stopped because I didn't like the prospect. So let's say I move my bishop, then he develops, and now he can double the rooks. And maybe this is again quiescence error, because if I think a little bit more deeper, I can challenge his rook, and there is nothing much he can do. I mean, he can double, but then I can take, he takes, and then I can challenge the rook again. No, I cannot, because I will lose the bishop. Yeah, so this is kind of annoying. So yeah, now when I look at it, I'm glad I didn't do this. Let me just think, what if he doubles? Yeah, then I would probably have to attack my bishop first and then do these exchanges. But it's too annoying. It's too annoying. So I'm glad I didn't go for this. So I kept my knight. I kept my knight here on b8, because now both knights are covering d7, and I don't need to be afraid of this possibility of penetration. So I played here bishop to b6. First of all, stopping him from having the tempo, but it's not so important. The idea is maybe to put the bishop here on c7 and then attack this knight. There's no other way actually to challenge this knight, because if I move the knight, then well, then I'm losing the knight, but it's too complicated. So yeah, I tucked my bishop away. He played b4, and now I played bishop c7, attacking the knight, and he retreated the knight on d3. And now there is another positional threat, and this is to play knight to c5, because after knight to c5 he's attacking my undefended bishop and also my pawn. So if I move my bishop somewhere, I don't know, if he plays this and I play bishop, let's say to d5, then my pawn is hanging after this knight is gone. So this is annoying, and this is why I decided to play knight to d7 to cover this square. Okay, he's continuing developing his bishop. Now it's a position, there are so many possibilities. I can go and play knight to d5, challenging the knight. There is a possibility of improving the bishop either this way or this way, putting the rooks in the open files. So there are many possibilities. And I decided to play rook a to c8 because I was thinking maybe at some moment this knight is defended only once, and maybe if I get another attacker on this knight, then I can take this pawn with the check and then open the attack here. So this is why I decided on this move. I mean, and it also it improves the rook. The rook is on the active open file, so it looks okay. Rook to d2 he played, so now he wants to double up here and attack my knight, which is not sufficiently defended. So I played rook f to d8 and he doubles the rook. And now there are some annoying things here, because if this knight moves, then he has the attack. Right now everything is sufficiently defended, but if anything changes, for example, if this bishop was to move somewhere, then this rook is defended only once and can be attacked twice, and so forth. So there are many unpleasant tactical opportunities here, so I decided to put my king closer, just to, put king on e8 or e7, and then I'm covering these two squares and I'm fine. And now it's his turn to move, and he's facing this eternal question, what to do when there is nothing to do. So it doesn't look that he has some room for improvement. Whatever he tries, he doesn't have any forward moves with his pieces. His rooks are already aligned. He could go for some kind of slow move, like maybe h3 or something, but it's not clear what to do. And in this kind of situation, players who are not, master level players, they tend to do something just in order to do something, even if it's not a good move. And this is what he did in this position. So he played bishop to f3, probably thinking that this bishop is too strong and that removing this bishop will somehow help him. But it's not a good move. So bishop f3, and I just took the bishop. He took back with the pawn, and now he has ruined his pawn structure. So I think I'm better here, and the engine agrees. So I continue to play my king to e7, wanting to cover this, and now I'm putting the king on the dark square, thinking that I'm giving additional support to the knight. So maybe, because he is eyeing my unprotected pawn and my knight, so maybe I want to play something like pawn to g6, and then this knight can be protected by the king. I was also thinking about king e8, but I think it's the same. Okay, and now he starts to remaneuver his pieces, so knight to e2. And now, yeah, this is still a threat, but I decided that now I have my own threat. If I play knight to b6, then this becomes a threat because it's double attack and so forth. So I played knight to b6, and now it becomes a little bit sharp. He goes knight to c5 immediately, so I allowed him to jump here. I exchange one rook, and then I go knight to c4, now double attacking the bishop, the rook, and also this pawn. And now my pawn is hanging, so some calculation was in order here. He makes in between move with a check, and I can tank with the king or with the pawn. The king keeps the pawn structure, but I liked the opportunity of taking with the pawn, and this is approved by the engine, because now I can activate my rook on a g file. And everything is covered. I mean, I don't need to be afraid of my pawn structure, and you can see that my king is more active. So overall, I think I'm better here. And now he made what I thought was a mistake, but okay, engine doesn't think it's a mistake, but it's a mistake later on. So rook to d8. And the idea, I talked with my opponent later on, I asked him why did he play this move, and he told me that he wanted me to move the king here to e8, and now I cannot activate my king on the g file. It makes sense, okay. But you have to be careful, because now after this knight is defending the rook. This knight cannot be moved, so he cannot take the pawn, for example. I can attack this knight. You know, it's a tricky position. And here he made a mistake. He wasn't careful enough. He should have just moved his rook back. He played f4, you know, closing this diagonal, which obviously he understood was an annoying opportunity of having this discovered attack. And now he has a problem, because now I can attack this knight. He cannot move the knight because his rook is hanging. If he moves the rook, then I win the pawn. He cannot move the rook either on c7 or d5, defending the knight, because I have this covered. So now he played rook to d3, and I just win the pawn. So here it is, winning position. I am a pawn up in the endgame. There are not many pieces on the board. It should be, well, not an easy win, but it should be winning for sure. Engine says it's completely winning, of course. Okay, so here we go. Knight to d4, and here I think I made a small mistake. Rook to d5, hoping, you know, maybe to win the knight with this cheap trick. But he played rook to c3. And now the problem is that this knight is defended only by this pawn, and if he challenges the pawn, let me in fact show you what is the problem here. And this is all the time in the position. So let's say he challenges this pawn, and if I don't do anything, he can take, and now this doesn't have any defender, and he regained his pawn. So this was something which was hanging in the position all the time. Okay, I'm now improving my king, because this was a threat, knight to c6, threatening penetration in my camp. So king is here very active, it's okay. And now he played this a4. Like I said, he wanted to challenge my pawn, and then later on he takes my knight, and he regained his pawn. So I have to fight against it, and I do this by chasing away his knight, e5. Takes the pawn, I take back, and now he jumps back to c2. Okay, now there is no threat. And there are plenty of things again to do here. I went for e4. Because, you know, there are even some mating opportunities here. If you can imagine the knight here, check here. There is this Arabian mate, or some other nice patterns. So yeah, I pushed this pawn. I thought it's nice to have the advanced pawn. I can always support it with f5 if I want to. So it looked okay. He took my pawn, I took back. Now I have a passed pawn, which is very nice. And now he went back to d4. So of course the drawback of this e4 is that now this square is available. But I saw this and I didn't care. So okay, he's again here. And now again I have this, he has the same threat. The threat is to take the pawn. When I take back, he can take my knight. So this was the threat, and the only way to stop this threat is to either protect this knight or to move this knight somewhere. And the best move, according to the engine, was something like knight to d6, you know, just covering the pawn and then slowly improving my king, which makes sense. But I wanted to play more actively, so I played knight to d2. Like I said, there are some possibilities of mate here. And he saw this and played king to g2. Now rook to g5 check, king to h3. Now his king is completely out of the game, and my king is very active near the center of the board. So I'm much better. But the problem is that, well, he has two pieces near my pawn. If I try to advance the pawn, I could get in some troubles. So for example, advancing, he's attacking my knight. Now I'm not sure. And the problem is that I cannot get behind my pawn. This is the main problem. rook to b5 doesn't work because he has the knight covering. So I was thinking that I should exchange some pieces here if I can, because that will allow me to put my rook behind the pawn, and also he cannot pile up on my pawn with two pieces. So it will be easier to defend this pawn if he starts attacking it. So I played knight to f3 here, threatening, for example, to win this pawn if he doesn't do anything, and so forth. And this was all fine. He took my pawn. I took the pawn back. And now my plan is to push the pawn and put the rook behind the pawn, and he cannot stop the promotion. And now things went starting to went south. So yeah, at this moment things become to look bad. So what happened? He played e4, and I really don't know what was in my head. Why didn't I just play b4 and put the king behind the pawn? I really don't know. I don't understand myself. Why didn't I do this? Okay, it was a 3-hour game at this moment, but this was my plan for the beginning. So there are two mistakes. First, I forgot about my plan. So b4 is the plan, putting the rook behind the pawn and go and promote. Okay. And the second mistake was that I didn't even see that he's now attacking my pawn. So when he plays e4, he's attacking my pawn. I missed this completely. I just blundered this pawn. But it doesn't matter. So if I was just to stick to my plan, playing b4, he takes the pawn, I go behind the pawn. He takes another pawn, I don't care. I play rook to king to e6. And how can he stop me now? He has to go here. I push the pawn, he has to go here. I push the pawn, he goes here. His rook is completely passive. His king is far away. And this should be winning. This should be winning. Now I slowly activate my king, and I'm just a few squares from getting to his rook, and my rook is stopping the king, his king, from being activated in order to help these pawns to promote. Yeah, so this will be winning if only I stick to my original plan. But for some reason I didn't. But I wanted to include my king more in the game, and this is a blunder, as you can see. Because I was thinking that I can help this pawn with my king, and it's unnecessary, because when you have the rook behind the passed pawn, you don't need the king immediately. You can bring the king later on in the game. So this was move which equalized the game. And now basically it's a draw, but I have to fight for a draw. So it's not just a draw, but I have to work really hard for a draw, because he can easily win, if I'm not careful enough. So he took my pawn on f3, and now again I made a mistake. So here the best move was, I could still do it, just push b4, put the rook behind, and go and promote. For some reason I didn't do this, but I play the worst possible move. It was this king to e5, which, okay, if I'm fighting for the draw, it makes sense, because I will take this pawn, and it's difficult for him to promote. These are connected pawns. But I should fight for a win, nevertheless. I mean, okay, engine says it's equal, but the best approach here would be either to play b4 or to play just king to e6, and now slowly, I mean, this pawn is covered, and now slowly improving, play f6, play maybe h5, put the king up, so slowly improving my position here, improving my pieces, and see what happens. Try to rearrange my pieces that they are all very active, and try to win the game. But I guess I was in the mentality that I'm fighting for a draw, so I went for king to e5. Okay, now it's completely drawish. So he took the pawn, I took the pawn, he took another pawn, and I played king to d3. Now I'm going for the promotion, and yeah, we'll see what happens. f4, and here like I said, I have to fight for a draw. I have to find a good move, good strategy. So the I think all the correct move here is rook to g1, covering the promotion square and also locking up the king, so the king cannot move. And now I'm going for the promotion. He played f5, b4, rook to b7, trying to stop my pawn, king to c3, protecting the pawn, king to h4. Now he wants to bring his king closer to this pawn, so once I move this rook, for example, to capture on b1, then he's just one move away from supporting his pawn. I played b3. Like I said, it's a fighting draw. So f6, b2, king to h5 with the same idea. Now I promote, he takes, I take, and he plays f7. So I did calculate all this in advance, so I was sure that it is a draw. It looks dangerous. It looks as though he's only one move away from winning the game, but okay, I calculated this and it was okay. And now actually it's an interesting endgame because here I'm lucky because my king is far away. So in order to draw this game, it's important that all these squares are available so I can bring my rook and just give checks. If my king, for example, was here, then it would be very dangerous because he could hide behind my king and I couldn't make any checks. So all I need to do is just keep the rook behind the pawn and give checks, and this is it. And I talked to him later on. He was hoping that I will make this mistake and try to overreach and try to bring the king in the game. And in this moment, I would lose the game. So this is why he played several more moves. He wanted to make sure that I know how to draw this, that I will not make a mistake. So yeah, so he just played, and now when I checked him, I just put behind the pawn. He cannot promote, so he went closer. I give check. He went here, and this is also an interesting moment. So what to do when he's behind the pawn? Again, I can overreach and try to bring the king closer, and I will lose the game once the king comes to the e file. So let me show you this, for example. So let's say that he goes here. Okay, check. He goes here, and now I think, oh great, I can put my king closer. But now when he comes here, I'm losing the game because I don't have. Actually, I'm not losing. I can move away. But let's say he played this smart. So I go here. So okay, he goes here, and then I check. He goes here. I go here, and then he can hide behind, and now I cannot check him. But okay, it's a long shot. I would have to make many mistakes for this to work. But anyway, he tried. So what is the correct move when he's behind the pawn? Well, I have to challenge the h pawn because now if he moves the h pawn, I can just capture it. So the rook is controlling everything, and he cannot do anything. So it's a draw. Check. Where did he go? f6. Okay, check. e7. Check. And now I saw in his face expression that he understands that I know how to draw this. I will not make a mistake and put my king closer. So I offered the draw and he accepted. And this is it. Well, at least I didn't lose the game, but I was so much better and I had the correct plan, and for some reason I didn't go with the plan. It's a chess mystery. So this was the position in which, let me go back. This is this is the position in which I had a good plan. So exchange the knights and now push the pawn, put the rook behind the pawn. I mean, this is basic endgame 101. Pass pawn must be pushed and the rooks belong behind the pass pawn. So basics. And for some reason I just snapped here and I didn't do this plan. Very simple plan. And this is why the game ended up in a draw. Not only draw, but me fighting for a draw. Anyway, this is it. Like I said, unfortunately, I had to drop off the tournament because of some personal obligations. So I hope you found these two videos instructive, and I will see you in some next opportunity. Cheers.